Boxing truth here. Keith, one-time Thurman, strongly feels that there is no debate on who is the #1 welterweight. Sees himself as the guy. See himself as the new Mayweather. See himself as the guy everyone's calling out for a payday, for a chance to gain 2 straps in the welterweight division. But the reality is he's no Mayweather. He's not that type of payday, but he's pretty much the biggest payday out there on the PBC side in the welterweight division. So you got guys like Porter desperate for that rematch. Danny Garcia wants a rematch. Errol Spence wants to be recognized as the #1 welterweight. So all those guys got to go to Keith Thurman to get that claim, to be recognized as one of the best welterweights or the unified welterweight champion. But there is a debate on who is the #1 welterweight. I mean, do you guys agree that Keith Thurman is the #1 welterweight? He has 2 wins, quality wins. He also has a win over Diego Chavez, a few veterans. He's the most accomplished fighter on the PBC side. He's a guy that claims that he has mastered the sport of boxing, that he understands the ring better than any other fighter in and around his weight class, and that's why he's going to defeat these guys, because he's going to outsmart them. He's going to just have a superior strategy and game plan to where these guys just won't be able to defeat his style. But there is a strong debate on who is the #1 welterweight. And there's another guy named Jeff Horn that has a very strong claim into being the #1 welterweight. He has a debatable win over Manny Pacquiao. He has the biggest win in the division. The thing is, Keith Thurman also has a debatable win in his career, and that's against Shawn Porter. A fight that he won by, what was it, split decision? I think it was unanimous. I think all 3 judges scored it the same way, like 115, 113, I believe. And it was that type of fight. I had the same score for Keith Thurman. Felt he won, but it was very close. It was debatable. So that's why Keith Thurman's claim is not as concrete as he thinks he is. He still has a debatable win over Shawn Porter. He needs to see how things work out in a rematch. I believe he'll beat Shawn Porter easier the second time around. Shawn Porter is getting older. The performances are not as strong as they used to be. His style is not getting any better. He's not getting any better, so I expect a more clear-cut performance. But maybe we'll see a chance of a Garcia-Porter fight before Thurman rematches any of those guys. The winner of that fight could challenge Keith Thurman, and that's a 50-50 fight across the board, a Garcia-Porter showdown. That would be nice, and Thurman in the meantime could fight, in new, fresh names, whoever he fights for his get-back fight. I believe his get-back fight, and also perhaps a potential fight with Jesse Vargas, since he's talking a lot of shit. He could also be a potential opponent for this year. But there's definitely a debate who is the #1 welterweight. Thurman has to slow his roll when it comes to that claim. He still has a lot to prove in the welterweight division. Still has a lot of guys in the division that he has to fight. But he's on his way to proving that he is at least the best fighter on the PBC side. He's pretty much the best PBC fighter, period. He's the only PBC fighter on my pound-for-pound list. He's the most accomplished. He has the most recognized wins. He is a unified champion. And he has the most potential, in my opinion, out of all of them, to become the next star of that promotion. He just has to fight more often, get a little more respect from the boxing fans who are claiming that he's ducking Errol Spence. The fight will happen, but on his time schedule, when he's ready, and you'll see you'll see the difference when Thurman and Errol Spence finally climb into that ring. Spence is definitely a dangerous opponent, has the strength and desire to become that guy. But does he have the potential of Keith Thurman? Is his style as complete as Keith Thurman? The real welterweight showdown is Keith Thurman versus Jeff Horn. Especially if Jeff Horn beats Terrence Crawford, then he will have a stronger claim at who is the #1 welterweight. To the point where you have to give him his props. You might have to have him higher on the pound for pound list. You have to say he's the #1 welterweight because he's been more active and he's defending his title and he's fighting pound for pound level fighters. Thurman's claim as #1 welterweight is in jeopardy as Jeff Horn is climbing and he's performing and he's getting the type of fights that can get him much more recognition. So Thurman needs to get back on his high horse, get more busy, and start reminding the fans of why he is truly one of the best fighters in the world, and also by far the best fighter on the PBC side. But there's definitely a debate on who is the #1 welterweight, and that battle remains between Keith Thurman and Jeff Horn. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.